Wall Street Capital Partners is forming a partnership with the private equity firm Cedar Partners. And with me is Doug Anderson, the founder, CEO of Wall Street Capital Partners, and also Steve Norris, founder of Cedar Partners. And so I'll let you guys kind of explain what it is that you're doing, and then we'll talk a little bit more in depth about it.
Well, Jane, I'm very excited to announce today, and who better person to do it than you? You know, we've been working together for so long. But Wall Street Capital Partners, we've been around for well over 20 years. And we've typically focused on emerging small cap, micro cap, and emerging markets. And so for us to branch out into something else, it has to be an extraordinary opportunity. And this really is. And so we've formed a new entity called Wall Street Capital Partners Asset Strategies. And what Asset Strategies is focused on is selling portfolio assets into the secondary markets, which is a trend now. A lot of sovereigns around the world, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of family offices are finding ways, looking and searching for ways to raise more capital from the current assets that they have. And so they're kind of looking for firms that can scrub down their portfolios, maybe take some of those assets out and sell them. And we're skilled at doing that at Wall Street Capital Partners. And so Cedar, which was founded by Steve Norris, who's also the founder of Carlyle Group, one of the most significant funds in the world, approached us and said, we may be able to work together here. And so we've agreed to form this new entity. Cedar's the larger shareholder in it, as should be. And we've also brought into it a new company that I'm chairman of and bringing listing on the stock exchange, which is Metaterra Holdings, Inc. Metaterra specializes in transaction software for the blockchain, specifically like doing a transaction with your phone on a POS system where you can instantly transact into any currency from your crypto wallet.
Okay.
And the other thing they do is they tokenize real world assets. They're better than anybody in the world at that, in my opinion. And we've got some very good examples of that Steve can talk to.
Well, and I've had the privilege to be on the board of Metaterra for a period of time, and they're doing some things that are truly unique to the new world that we're kind of all facing. Tokenization is just emerging as a viable source of raising substantial capital against assets, and in this case, against portfolios. Also, we see down the road there'll be applications to finance commodities, whether it's oil or fertilizer or phosphate. Commodity flows are likely to be subject to tokenization. And the other thing we're really focused on, Doug mentioned, is the ability in today's world, there's a lot of capital on the sidelines looking for a home that's not highly correlated with other things they're currently doing. And we think secondary transactions are a case in point, and we're looking actively at a couple of major portfolios of things. And but that enables investors to do is to have a feel for what they're buying into. When we started the private equity business, 25, 30 years ago, it was all about trusting and investing in some people who were saying we were going to go out and buy assets better than others had been buying to date. And it was kind of a hard sell, but we were fortunate enough, as were a number of other big firms, KKR, for example, Carlyle was early on, Blackstone, to convince people to finance effectively blind pools. We weren't sure what we were going to buy. We had some parameters.
Okay.
And as things developed, the parameters became a bit clearer. One of the advantages that we had in the early days is that the market hadn't figured out that parameters might be a good way of controlling what people were buying. And so we were pretty much able to buy what we found to be attractive, assuming and most of us were successful enough to have made people money, so it continued to work. Now, having an opportunity to buy into an existing portfolio where you know what assets are there, you know what the business strategy of the members of the portfolio are, you know who's running the business, that's very attractive from an investor point of view, and we think it's going to become even more so. So we're happy to partner with Doug and Wall Street. They've got the requisite technical market experience that we need to be successful, and we think that these kinds of transactions will represent a significant part of the future for a lot of major funds. Could be pension funds. We saw one done already in Singapore. It could be general partners in existing firms deciding to refinance out limited partners. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at doing these sorts of things. So we're excited to do it.
Well, there has been some initiatives and proposals about bringing, rather than just the stock market, other things into 401k plans. You mentioned pensions. And so you're kind of early, I guess, in that trend.
Well, you know, a perfect example, and we've kind of touched on this before, Wall Street Capital Partners was exclusively using Metaterra Holdings to tokenize Vlad III Bucharest International Airport in Romania. And as we all know, Vlad III, a.k.a. Dracula, okay? And so I'll also announce today that we've secured the Dracula token. So that will be coming out. We're organizing that, and that's the token to look for in the future.
So now, and explain like what that means. So somebody could own a little piece, I guess, of the airport through this token, right? This is what the real world assets are
that's correct.
Talked about.
And
okay.
so, and we're talking a very, very significant tokenization project. In fact, it would be the largest real world asset that's been tokenized. About $2.5 to $3 billion of asset airport with the city supporting it, surrounding it. So it's very exciting.
So it's a whole new source of capital potentially for these kinds of projects. You know, traditionally they've gone to infrastructure funds, sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, you know, traditional sources of capital, and that will continue to happen. But tokenization, we think, will add a whole nother layer of potential financing and broadening the ownership base and the ability to trade essentially instantaneous.
Exactly.
And that's going to have some real advantages.
Yeah. But the other thing it does is democratize finance. So somebody who couldn't buy Vlad Airport can buy a little piece of it and benefit from the upside and increase in value.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And, you know, like software deals, these kinds of deals have that same multiple, roughly the same kind of multiple is applied to deals like this. And when I look at the numbers, it's just staggering the kind of growth that we're going to see from this company. I think Metaterra Holdings will be one of the hottest traded stocks in 2026, you know, when we get it going.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Steve and Doug, for coming and making
Thank
this
you.
announcement. Best of luck. And it's certainly a cutting edge way of financing projects.
Great to see you here at the New York Stock Exchange, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.